Our guest today is Haaz Sleiman. His most recent project is Killing Jesus, and he portrays Jesus. And this is for the, I believe, National Geographic Channel, and it's coming out soon. And so we had a chance to just sit down and nerd out about some cool history and theology and culture and all kinds of stuff. So welcome, Haaz.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. There's a lot of probably obvious questions that people are going to ask, like about, the controversy that you identify as Muslim and yet you're playing a Jew in a movie that's geared toward a Christian audience in a lot of ways and stuff. But before we get to that, I was just kind of wondering, I'm fascinated. I've never gotten to interview somebody from Lebanon. And because my sense is, from knowing what little I do about Lebanon and the history there, that it's such an interfaith place that this is a big shift here in the United States, where we talk about being diverse. But I wondered if people don't know, like, Lebanon is actually bordered on two sides by Syria, and then in the south by Israel, and then you've got influence from the Roman Empire. You've got the Ottoman Empire, and then you were a territory of France.
True. Yep.
Right.
And yeah, we were colonized by France, absolutely. And then and then it was Mont de Liban, which is the Mount of Lebanon, and then it got expanded, and the borders were defined during the French colony after France left.
Yeah.
Lebanese borders. Yeah, I mean, Lebanon went through a lot. Jesus even walked on the grounds of Lebanon.
Yeah.
I don't know if, they even say that. They mentioned that in the film. They say, what, you want me to like the cedars of Lebanon to like wipe or cut out all the cedars of Lebanon.
Right.
Yeah. So it's seen a lot. It's been through a lot and seen a lot, that country.
Well, and you guys went through a pretty peaceful time in probably your lifetime, but then you went through the Civil War. I wondered, were you there during that?
I was there. I definitely was in one of the big civil wars. I moved to Lebanon when I was born in the UAE, United Arab Emirates.
Yeah.
Most people know Dubai, but I was born in Abu Dhabi, which is the capital. And then I moved to Lebanon when I was 10, and I grew up in Lebanon. And I moved in 1986. And I remember from 86 to 90 to 90, 91, and when it got really bad throughout those 4 years, Civil War, I saw a lot, man. It was just very intense. Like, my brother got shot by a sniper in his stomach. My mother almost got killed because of a missile that hit our building where we lived on the 4th floor, and we were living on the 5th floor. And I remember I saw another building get hit before we got hit, and I went to my mom. I was like, Mom, wake up, come and see the other building. As she's getting up to go and come to me, as boof, like a huge explosion, the whole building shakes. Big chunks of glass and like pieces that big were cutting through the mattress where she was sleeping, right through. They would have like cut through her. And I got shot in my leg, but I can't give you any heroic story. I was just out with my friends in the wilderness with guns, and we were just having fun and shooting at rocks, And then one bullet fell in the fire, and we're just camping around the fire, and then the bullet exploded, and it went into my leg.
Less romantic, right? Yeah.
Less romantic, less heroic, kind of almost like, well, Haaz, I mean, really, how smart and clever are you right now? It doesn't feel so good. Really good going,
Right.
I don't share it a lot, but I shared it with you today. Oh, well.
Wow.
It's good to be vulnerable, right?
Absolutely.
And so, I saw a lot, man. I mean, between the Civil War, which was awful, and I didn't go to school for 7 months as a result of that. Imagine being in the mountains, Though I have to say, I can't lie that a part of me really enjoyed the fact that I didn't go to school for 7 months.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's similar, like, there was one time gunshots, and we were having exams in school, and the gunshots kept growing and getting stronger. At some point, the teacher's like, okay, stop, no more exam, we have to go hide. I was so happy, which is really weird if you think about it. Like, people are getting shot, or people are, I'm like happy I don't have to take the exam. But that's what happens when you grow up in an area of conflict.
Yeah.
Then you have Israel. We had many times where it was also tough. Some of the Israeli invasions where Israel bombed a small village called Qana, and they bombed a UN building where only women and children were hiding, seeking refuge, and they killed basically about almost 200 people, women and kids, in one like bomb. And I remember I was going to the university, to Lebanese American University. That's where I was studying, and pictures of everyone that died, and specifically one stood out, a baby with its head blown out.
Oh my God.
It was like only like a 5 day old baby, you know, and they were just grabbing the baby like that and showing the picture. I mean, I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. I was crying every night. I was just like trying to make sense of it all, understand this whole thing. And I have to say, all of that really, I think, was a good thing to be able to channel some of that in Killing Jesus, because, as you know, it was an area of conflict as well, you know, in many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still in some ways resonating with some of those same issues, both the amazing blending of cultures from Ottoman Ottoman Turks to like some very even misunderstood things like Maronite Christians and the Druze and things that
Right,
we
right, yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and that you were a refugee and that you were surrounded by violence and empire, uh, and then you're telling this story. So although I'm sure you're getting some pushback from probably mainly from Christians, but maybe from Jews as well. You know this story like in your blood in a way that a lot of people never will.
In a way, yes, you're absolutely right. I think you can't really replicate that unless you really experience something like that, to really get it really deep in your cells, in your body, to really understand what it means for people to be living in fear, for people to be living in such a struggle. Um, and I'm not comparing Lebanon to how Judea was with the Romans. It's not.
Sure.
We have our version of it a little bit where it's more civilized or more hidden, so to speak,
Yeah.
when Syria is controlling Lebanon in many ways, because Syria was very powerful and had a very powerful influence in Lebanon, politically speaking. And they did a lot of stuff that was not very good, for the country and for the country. But it was never to the extent of how the Jews were oppressed by the Romans. But the Jews were pretty powerful even then. I mean, they were the only kind of group of people that were pretty rebellious and tough and like stood their ground, and like the zealots, they slit their throats. They're
Right.
like, no, we're gonna kill ourselves before you touch us, kind of a thing. They had like a pride, a dignity, a sense of worth that they felt is worth fighting for. And that's, I mean, you can't but respect that.
Yeah.
But so I think there's a lot of elements and layers in there that I have, of course, not experienced, as you know, but definitely my experience in Lebanon and seeing people struggling and seeing people unfortunately, unjustly be harmed in a way where they're worried about their survival, livelihood, and that really helped me a lot in telling the story. To understand what that means, for people.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that a lot of the folks that listen to our show are interested in is the notion of the historical Jesus, which is more the approach of this, which I really appreciated about the film, that it wasn't one of these like magic lightning bolts shooting out of the hands
Right,
kind of things or
right,
anything.
right.
And you,
Because you and I can't do anything about that, anyways. We can't shoot lightning bolt. You know what I mean? So, oh, great, wonderful. But what am I supposed to do now?
yeah, exactly. This
Yeah.
just makes me feel more distant from this person,
Right.
rather than
Absolutely.
you were dealing with the agonies and the doubts and the wonder and being kind of surprised himself when things worked out. So
Which was what happens to us too. I mean, that happens to me too when I believe in God, and I've had many experiences like that when I knew that God was talking to me and showing me something, and it was the same thing. It was like, whoa,
yeah,
you have that sort of wondrous, you marvel at it. Like, it's amazing.
yeah,
It's not like you need magic or light or anything like that to see how wondrous the world that we live in and the
yeah,
miracles that happen every day. You just have to pay attention and see them. They're there all the way.
yeah.
And they happen a lot in many different ways, and specifically through people. It's amazing how many miracles I've seen through other human beings, performed by other human beings through God. Obviously everything is through God because He created us. But
Right.
I mean, that's my belief, at least.
Yeah, and I think you really conveyed that through the character very well. That you were seeking to sort of evoke that potential from within each person,
Mm,
rather than just sort of do magic tricks and fix everything,
right.
which is for a lot of people a very alienating understanding of Jesus, and to me it was a much more honest approach to the character.
Mm.
So I'm wondering, like, first of all, were you surprised when you got approached about playing this role of Jesus in killing Jesus, and what was your thought process, or discernment, or did you just say immediately yes? How did you decide?
Oh yeah, I was like a kid, man. I was just jumping up and down. I was so happy, and like, I'm so passionate, and I'm so passionate about him. I mean, I love everything about him. I love everything he stands for, all his teachings. I just think, how could you not? Is the
Right.
question. I mean, how could you not? And how could you not get it? How could you not understand it or understand him? Um, and in simple terms, I mean, he really makes you understand love. He teaches you about love, and it can't get better than that, man. It just
Yeah.
can't get better than that. And there's nothing more empowering and powerful than that, really. And believe it or not, that was exactly what helped me do it, because I, of course, started to question myself. I was like, oh my God, can I do this?
Mm.
Am I good enough? Can I trust myself? The pressure, like, everybody knows the story, and 2.2 billion people, no pressure there, right? And then on
Right.
top of it, the rest of the world, the 7 billion, or like the 4 or 5 billion, even if they're not Christians, they know the story really well, and they have an opinion about it as well too. So it was a huge undertaking, not just for me, but also for Bill O'Reilly, also for Chris Minall, the director, also for Waylon Green, who adapted the screenplay. And I'm so proud to be in their company, because I think they're a bunch of courageous people to try to attempt to tell the story in a human way, and in a way that's a little bit more grounded, so we, as you said beautifully, can relate to it more and walk away from the story feeling empowered and not feeling like crap, because we're humans and we're not the Son of God or God. We're like, okay, great, we Son of God, beautiful, wonderful, amazing. Well, okay, what do I do now? You know what I
That's
mean? Like,
right.
what can I? And so it's about merging it all together, and so we can feel connected to it, and almost like one with it, and so we're a part of it in a way, in that experience. And essentially, I do believe that as people, again, we were given the gift of life. We didn't choose to be alive. It was a gift that was given to us. And I think when you think of it that way, that inherently means that we have all divinity within us. God breathed life in us.
Hmm.
And so from that divinity, you can only look at humanity in one way, with love, love, love. And that's what Jesus did. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He came to show us our beauty and what we're capable of as human beings to do for one another. And I see it, man, all the time. I am so lucky that I have people in my life that are just unbelievable. Unbelievable. The things that they do are just incredible.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it does make just walking through the world such a transformative experience, I think, when you see through the eyes of that sort of person, prophet, Messiah, what have you, right? And I think it's
Right.
interesting
Right.
because I think a lot. One of the things that I hear, a lot. Well, first of all, you hear a lot of crazy ignorance within certain Christian circles, like, Jesus was a Christian, which is absurd, of course. He didn't follow himself around in circles,
Right. Right. Exactly.
but
Right.
a lot of people don't even consider the fact of what an important role Jesus plays in the Muslim narrative. Um,
Yes. Oh
and
my God. Huge.
yeah, so I mean, talk
Huge.
about that and just kind of how you came to understand the character or the historical or the prophet of Jesus from your Muslim but also multicultural, multi-religious reality in which you grew up.
I mean, if you want to like look at, I mean, essentially, the only difference I think between, like, let's say Islam and Christianity regarding Jesus is that for Islam he's a prophet, for Christianity he's the Son of God, he is God. But everything else is the same. Now, some people say, well, that's enough. I don't want to talk about anything
Yeah,
else. But see, that's the problem. What is he here for? What did he come to do? That is what's important, because it does not change if he was the Son of God or just a human being. It does not change the reason why he came down to teach us something.
that's right.
And that's the most important. That should be the focus of the story. And unfortunately, we're focusing on all other things that are taking us from what is important. And what I do believe from just looking at his teachings was important for him. I mean, you can just look at his teachings and it tells you everything. Love your enemy. I mean, really. Like just that on its own. Once you apply that, you don't even have to go to the love your neighbor. I think
Right?
you covered that as well under the umbrella of love your enemy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if you love your enemy, then the rest is just given. And so I really marvel at how much time we spend about these differences and spend little or no time whatsoever on the most important things for those prophets that came to teach us something. You know, it's almost like politics today, right? Think about it. We spend so much time on all of the like stuff that doesn't really matter. And then the things that really will make a difference in the country and for the people, we spend very little time. And it's just about the game, playing the game or the politics of it.
Right.
And obviously, I'm not being reductive of religion in that way, but just as a metaphor, I speak. But in Islam, Jesus is mentioned in the Quran more than Muhammad, and he came before Muhammad. So in many ways, he's even more important than Muhammad because of that. And we have a thing about respect, like respecting your elders who came before you. So it applies also for that in the prophets and chronologically speaking. I mean, whatever you think that the Islam has towards Muhammad, even multiply that by 2 or 3 or 4. That's how much Muslims respect and honor and follow Jesus and his teachings.
Yeah,
Which is really amazing.
it is.
Which
And
is just
yeah.
like,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, which is, no, I just was, which is really like, it's heartbreaking sometimes when you think about that. You know what I mean? Like, because you realize, wow, I mean, yes, granted, like some fundamental things you can get caught up on, but there's nothing more beautiful. And this movie does that in a way because Jesus was Jewish. I was raised Muslim, and a raised Muslim is playing the person that gave birth to Christianity who was a Jew.
Right.
So you have all three already kind of in that moment being one. And what I love the most is when I see a Jewish rabbi with a Christian priest and a Muslim sheikh sitting down under the same roof and talking to each other from a place of love and respect. That to me is what it's all about. I mean, that's how I see the world. Yeah.
And that is the thing. That is the ultimate barrier breaker, I think, is that face-to-face acknowledgement of the humanity and at least the possibility of the divinity in the other.
Right.
So Killing Jesus is coming out very soon. What's the date?
This Sunday, March 29th, Palm Sunday at 8 p.m. on Nat Geo.
Palm Sunday, of course. Yeah. I have to ask really quickly because I'm intrigued about another thing you're already in post-production on, because the name of it is so providential, so prophetic, considering what you're probably dealing with some people's response to this movie. It's called Those People. I gotta ask what that's about. Are you allowed to say yet?
Yeah. No, I could talk about it. It's just funny that you're the second person who brings it up, but it's essentially about. I shot it in New York. It's about a coming of age, a guy who's becoming a man, and it's about those people. Meaning, as a group of friends, there are friends, but then to other people around, they're those people. They're not really, you know what I mean. And it's like the idea of how we as people tend to do that to each other, you know. Right. But then you see them as a close group of friends, but for others, they're like either. Not enemies, but like, strangers and people that you don't necessarily care so much for, or even understand, or even maybe judge. But then in their close knit, it's it's sort of like just almost like classroom metaphor.
Right.
When you're in a classroom, it's the other. Yeah, exactly. Right. I don't know what the story is about that. Meaning, when is it going to come out? And what's happening? If they're going to go to festivals, I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, it was just fascinating because I think that was so much of what Jesus was about, was breaking down the barriers of other, and and then that leaves the possibility for love to grow. And so I honor and respect your attempts to do that from your own story and your own culture, using your gifts to try to give that to other people. So
thanks so much, man. Yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah, it means a lot.
Absolutely, blessings in your work. And peace and grace moving forward, and I really appreciate your time.
Blessings to you too, my friend. It was really a pleasure chatting.
Thanks. Haaz Sleiman, he is hitting the pavement from now till Palm Sunday when the movie comes out, Killing Jesus on Nat Geo. Check it out.